How to deal with loss? Well, depends on what kind of loss people refer to, but if we are to talk a bit about, the question is why would you think about loss when technically you don't own anything? We only pretend to use papers and such to own a certain sense of stability. We live in a sick society that's promised you a while ago that you're going to own nothing and you're going to be happy. So, in the end, if that is the future that they promote for you, why is it that you would actually be afraid of losing things? If, based on those promises, you will actually not own anything at all. See, there was a Japanese legend, as of what I heard from a video, and there are also other voices that speak similar, that every time something presupposedly bad happens in your life, well, one can interpret it as a kind of indirect help. See, some people have probably invented a lot of meaning around this, but it could also have a certain sense of reality. And it might be far fetched or not. Some people might interpret that if they dropped the coffee that they just bought, maybe it was the cosmos's way of telling them that they shouldn't have drunk that. And maybe they have, I don't know, uh, well, they have made sure that they don't suffer some heart attack or things like that, right? They have avoided something bad by not drinking that coffee. If someone leaves you from your life, they ghost you or whatever, maybe they just make space for someone better to come into your life, or it's high time you kind of discover the importance of silence in your own life. Because it's not bad to be surrounded by people, but at the same time, isn't it good to also learn what it is like to embrace silence for a bit? And also, not just that, but learn how to make more space for it. Yes? Because enjoying some silence for 2 or 3 minutes is not a thing. If you want true strength, you need to embrace silence as a whole. Yes? As a whole aspect of your existence. Not just some little event that's going on for 1 or 2 minutes. Yes? So the point is, loss may be apparent because you had a certain expectation that you would have done something with that which you had for a certain period of time. And then suddenly, for whatever reason, you no longer have that. Whatever happened, well, you only you know. It is your own experience. Maybe you dropped it and, and it broke. Maybe it got stolen. Maybe something happened and you no longer have it. It's no longer in one piece or whatever happened. The point is, you will perceive it as a loss. Especially the more you were attached to a certain outcome based on that object, you would almost always guaranteed perceive the absence of that, the breaking of that, as a loss, right? So people have to understand in the end, not always can you perceive things as if you don't own them, yes? Because in the end, you were born butt naked. Not even the clothes that you wear were yours. Yes? And the point is, as life went on, you became accustomed to believing that whatever you have, it's yours. Well, good luck convincing a thief about that. Yes? Good luck convincing some people. Because even if you have all those papers that so called prove you are the owner of those things, objects, products, even services, someone else can actually steal that from you. Or maybe, yeah, they can steal it and or put it on their own name or whatever else. Because in a sick society, it's only power that proves ownership. Yes? Because ownership is only temporary. Because that object, especially now in consumerism, has a certain lifetime. It will go bust at a certain moment, yes, especially if it is mechanical and it has spinning wheels and little things, that constantly have to move along, they will simply break sooner or later, yes. And also, if the object lasts, let's say, 100 years, maybe you will not last that much. So that's why I always remind people every belonging is temporary. Yes? So the point about this is people have to understand nothing is something that you will own forever. The only thing you will own forever is your karma. That is the only thing you will take with you in your grave. And people kind of often forget that the grave is something that they will meet sooner or later. It's the only thing that they will own, yes? Because even this physical body was granted to you by nature. You can look at it as a loan, you can look at it in any other possible way, but technically it is like a loan which you make use of, and then you will return to nature. You will return to nature in a certain way, much more developed or different than the initial size and the initial looks and whatever, and well, nature will do with it as it always has known. Yes? So the point is very simple. Loss is only something psychological. Everything psychological is perceived either in a positive or in a negative way because something you either like or you dislike. Yes? The point about perception is that you either like or you dislike something. Wise people are the ones who simply detach from that. So they don't look at something as necessarily good or bad. They look at it as just a possibility. If you can have it, you make use of it, and that's it. You don't necessarily attach yourself to it. Yes? Nowadays, things are, the nature of consumerism makes people very materialistic. Back in the times when I was young, before the internet became that famous and, social media and all this nonsense, well, people had to craft their own ideas. You barely had a few toys, there was not much consumerism, there was not many toys that you could find and buy. So oftentimes you also were hit with the idea that your parents were at work, so you were all alone at home, and you had to distract yourself somehow. So you had to craft your own toys, you had to do a lot of things. Yes? Nowadays, you don't need much. If you have the money, which is usually rarely the case, but if you have the money, you can buy several things and distract yourself with. But at the same time, consumerism makes it that given how many possibilities there are, you become so like a zombie. You are no longer capable of embracing something. Everything is just temporarily usable. Yes, you just make use of it for a bit and then it's gonna gather dust until you throw it away. And well, that's kind of how things go. Yes? So, in this world, especially in consumerism, nothing is meant to stay forever. If something breaks, well, it was about time you bought something new or you learned to do without that. It is unfortunate when something important breaks, like your computer, your work laptop, or things like that, because that can be painful to replace in some situations, but people have to remember, whatever happens, it happens. Everything that you make use of, remember that it has a life just like you. Yes? It will have a life, it has a life that will end at a certain moment, just like yours will also end. If people live as if they are immortal, they will simply waste time doing whatever here and there, and they will not do anything with their lives. They will become more shallow and more ignorant, and the more shallow they become, everything else will feel like it's not worth understanding. Yes, the unexamined life is not worth living. That's how it always feels. So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. You are appreciated, take care, enjoy life. This being said, Ferenc Board signing out.